Donald Trump returned to the Oval Office on January 20th, 2025 with a mandate and a vengeance. After a fierce and deeply polarizing campaign, he defeated incumbent Vice President Kamala Harris in a landslide that left the Democratic Party reeling and much of the global commentariat stunned. Trump's base was emboldened, his political adversaries were fragmented, and his promise to dismantle what he called the bureaucratic swamp reignited the fervor of his 2016 revolution. With a Republican-controlled Congress at his back and a cabinet loyal to his vision, Trump began his second non-consecutive term not as an underdog outsider, but as a seasoned disruptor ready to push the system to its limits.
The golden age of America begins right now. I will very simply put America first. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before.
The early stages of Trump's tenure have been anything but quiet. His administration has launched aggressive tariff policies, reversed major environmental and social regulations, and faced sharp criticism from economists and allies alike. The markets have wobbled, approval ratings have fluctuated, and the media has chronicled every executive order with a mix of fascination and horror. So how will this presidency, the 47th term, be remembered? It's too early to tell, but one thing is certain: he remains as polarizing as ever. The real question is whether his populist fire still resonates as powerfully with voters as it did on the campaign trail. Welcome to the Global Insight. On January 20th, 2025, Washington, D.C. awoke to a brittle, freezing morning, icy winds sweeping across the National Mall, a fitting backdrop for one of the most contentious political handovers in modern American history. The crowd, though sizable, was split in spirit. Trump supporters roared with pride as their candidate returned to power, defying the odds and reclaiming the presidency after a term in the wilderness.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Detractors, however, watched with a mixture of disbelief and quiet apprehension. The inauguration ceremony was laced with Trumpian bravado, from the bombastic rhetoric to the overt rebuke of the previous administration. In his speech, Trump didn't hold back, lambasting Joe Biden's government for what he called 4 years of stagnation, censorship, and global weakness. His words landed with a sting, even among some moderates who had hoped for a more unifying tone at the dawn of a second term.
As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad.
The spectacle took an even more bizarre turn when Elon Musk, now a high-profile advisor and symbolic partner in Trump's war on bureaucracy, appeared on stage, smiling beside the president. What followed was a theatrical flourish of executive order signings. Trump, flanked by cabinet picks and advisors, signed over a dozen sweeping decrees in front of the cameras, each met with dramatic applause from loyalists on stage. It was a show of power, of dominance, a declaration that the Trump era was back with a vengeance. While many in his base celebrated the return of a no-nonsense leader, others across the political divide felt alienated, even frightened by the pageantry. According to early polling reported by The Economist, while Trump maintained strong support among working-class Republicans and rural voters, a significant percentage of independents and suburban moderates were already expressing unease at the tone of the new administration. The inauguration didn't just mark a transfer of power, it served as a harbinger of the dramatic, unrelenting 100 days to come. Within days of reclaiming the presidency, Donald Trump resumed a familiar pattern that has both thrilled and terrified observers during his first term, a bombastic, headline-dominating style of policy rollout that thrives on provocation. This time, however, his approach appeared even more strategic. He opened his second administration with sweeping declarations that felt more like geopolitical stand-up routines than traditional policy announcements. For instance, Trump reiterated his desire to annex Greenland, stating, "I think it'll happen," during a meeting with NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte. He emphasized the island's strategic importance for international security. Just as the world reeled from this assertion, Trump shifted focus by suggesting that Canada consider becoming the 51st US state, citing economic benefits and shared cultural ties.
Canada should honestly become our 51st state. Canada would be great as our cherished 51st state. You wouldn't have to worry about borders, you wouldn't have to worry about anything.
The effect was classic Trump. Pivot the outrage, expand the Overton window, and slowly reintroduce the original idea as a mainstream proposition. This shock then normalized strategy has become a signature of Trump's political playbook. He used a similar tactic with the Panama Canal, suggesting early on that the US should take control of it again for strategic purposes. Critics cried imperialism, but before the outrage could solidify into action, Trump distracted the world with a floated proposition about forming a North American energy union, a new, vague alliance to harness North American power. By the time the dust settled, the once unthinkable idea of US involvement in the canal's management was quietly working its way into policy discussions behind closed doors. According to an analysis published in The Economist, Trump's barrage of executive actions and rhetorical bombshells in the first weeks of his presidency were not random, but calculated moves designed to stretch public perception and exhaust opposition through relentless controversy. It's a method that polarizes instantly, but also disorients long enough for the administration to embed radical ideas into the mainstream political conversation. Foreign policy took a sharp and controversial turn early in Trump's second term, particularly in relation to Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. Trump's rhetoric, often dismissive of Ukraine's plight and curiously complimentary towards Vladimir Putin, raised eyebrows both at home and abroad. His White House visit with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy was widely reported as tense and awkward, culminating in a bizarre moment when Trump openly questioned whether continuing military aid to Ukraine was in America's best interest.
If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that
what
wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
The visit was further overshadowed by rumors of a mineral rights negotiation involving rare earth elements in Ukraine, an angle that many media outlets speculated could benefit private American contractors with ties to the administration. Trump's lukewarm stance on Ukraine didn't just spark diplomatic concern, it sowed confusion among NATO allies and stirred unease within the Republican Party itself. According to reporting by The Guardian, European diplomats were stunned by the shift in tone, describing the meeting as performative and politically combustible. At a time when Ukraine's military was still heavily reliant on Western support, Trump's positioning signaled a possible fracture in transatlantic unity. Critics saw the episode as another sign of Trump's unpredictable foreign policy instincts, while supporters argued it was a pragmatic pivot aimed at America First resource diplomacy. Either way, the moment underscored a deepening rift between Trump's White House and America's traditional international partners. If there's one figure who has emerged as both a symbol and enabler of Trump's second-term ethos, it's Elon Musk. Now serving as an unofficial innovation czar, Musk has been charged with overhauling bloated government agencies and promoting efficiency through privatization and automation.
I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight.
His influence is everywhere, from new policies on federal contracting to plans for blockchain-based ID systems. Perhaps most eyebrow-raising was his push to integrate cryptocurrency into public finance experiments with Dogecoin, of all assets being floated as a test currency for government microtransactions. Critics called it a stunt. Musk called it disruption at scale. Musk's partnership with Trump is emblematic of the administration's larger crusade against what they brand as big government dead weight.
Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. Many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people, headed up by Elon, and we appreciate it. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud.
Federal departments have been pressured to slim down, digitize, and innovate or die. Though some initiatives have garnered praise for cutting red tape and streamlining services, others have triggered chaos, with agencies struggling to adapt to unrealistic timelines and unclear mandates. According to reporting from Fox 4 Now, while tech-driven overhauls have stirred optimism among libertarian circles and tech entrepreneurs, many civil servants describe the current climate as chaotic and driven more by ideology than evidence. The allegiance between Trump and Musk has injected Silicon Valley bravado into Washington, along with all its unpredictability. With the new Trump presidency came a new inner circle, and few figures have risen more quickly into the spotlight than JD Vance. Once a best-selling author and political outsider, Vance is now a central voice in Trump's administration, serving as a key strategist and, according to some insiders, a de facto policy architect. His Appalachian populism and sharp critiques of the coastal elite have found a natural home in Trump's rhetoric, offering ideological depth to an administration often defined by bombast. Vance has been especially influential in shaping the administration's positions on domestic manufacturing, trade policy, and education reform, earning him both admirers and skeptics within Washington. Surrounding Vance is a cabinet filled with loyalists, disruptors, and a handful of technocrats. Some, like Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Treasury's Peter Navarro, are returning players with proven loyalty to Trump's first-term agenda. Others are wildcards, figures like tech billionaire Joe Lonsdale and former military analysts who have never held public office. As reported by The Economist, this team is designed less for conventional governance and more for ideological warfare, intended to break norms, remake institutions, and accelerate Trump's vision of a lean, nationalist America. The question that looms is whether this eclectic coalition can govern effectively, or whether it will crumble under the weight of its own contradictions. Perhaps the most destabilizing moment of Trump's first 100 days came with his sweeping imposition of reciprocal tariffs on nearly every major trading partner.
Starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations.
Announced with characteristic flair via Truth Social, the tariffs were billed as a bold corrective to decades of trade imbalance. But the immediate reaction was panic. The Dow Jones plummeted. Bond markets trembled and major corporations began issuing warnings about price hikes and layoffs.
We have times when the trade deficit falls, you may say, oh, that's good. But in fact, no, it's bad. Because what it means is that the U.S. economy is going through a very rough time.
According to a detailed report from Sky News, the administration's clarification that the tariff on Chinese goods had soared to a staggering 145% triggered a second wave of market freefall, described as going down like a Chinese spy balloon on Wall Street. Amid the chaos, Trump insisted that the turmoil was part of a 90-day window for renegotiation, positioning the downturn as a temporary price for long-term sovereignty. But even within his inner circle, doubts were surfacing. Elon Musk and other high-profile allies reportedly raised concerns behind closed doors, while Democrats publicly accused Trump of manipulating the market for personal gain, particularly after he posted, "This is a great time to buy," alongside the ticker symbol for his own media company DJT. As one Democratic lawmaker told Sky News, if you're trading individual stocks while steering policy that crashes the market, you need to answer for it. Supporters hailed it as tough love for a bloated global system. Critics called it reckless economic warfare.
I campaigned on this policy throughout last year, and today that promise was made, and it was also a promise, as you know, that was kept. Promises made, promises kept.
As Trump's second term barrels forward with dramatic policy swings and relentless media spectacles, public opinion is, perhaps unsurprisingly, deeply divided. According to The Economist's approval tracker, Trump's ratings have dipped slightly since inauguration, falling from 51% to around 47% approval. The fall is particularly noticeable among suburban independents and younger voters, many of whom cite concerns over the administration's unpredictability, especially regarding the economy. However, among his core base, rural voters, small business owners, and white working-class Americans, support remains solid. His ongoing battle with the so-called deep state and his unapologetic push for economic nationalism still resonate deeply in communities that feel left behind by globalization and liberal technocracy. A recent Guardian call-out inviting Americans to reflect on Trump's first 100 days yielded a wide spectrum of responses. Some described a renewed sense of hope, applauding the president for finally putting America first and shaking the tree in Washington. Others voiced exhaustion, calling his leadership style chaotic and emotionally exhausting. One contributor from Wisconsin summed it up poignantly. "We didn't vote for Donald Trump because we liked him, we voted for him because we're tired of being ignored." Across the country, uncertainty seems to be the prevailing emotion, even among those who pulled the lever for Trump in 2024. As Sky News reporters found on the ground, many Americans aren't watching policy with optimism or cynicism, but with apprehensive eyes on their wallets.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
100 days into Donald Trump's second presidency, the United States finds itself suspended between disruption and reinvention. His administration has bulldozed through norms, challenged economic orthodoxy, and reignited ideological warfare at home and abroad. Whether it's tariffs that tank markets, cabinet meetings that resemble coronations, or executive orders announced like reality show plot twists, the tone has been anything but conventional. For his supporters, this is the entire point. Trump was elected not to maintain the status quo, but to obliterate it. For his critics, it's confirmation of their worst fears, that Trump governs less like a statesman and more like a showman, gambling the nation's stability for personal and political spectacle. Yet beneath the noise and theatrics lies a more sobering question. Who truly benefits from all this disruption? Is it the average American scraping by paycheck to paycheck, or is it the billionaires and insiders navigating the chaos with foreknowledge and influence? While Trump's policies are undeniably reshaping the political landscape, their long-term value remains uncertain. What's clear is that America is in flux, pulled between populist fury, economic anxiety, and a political system now defined by spectacle as much as substance. That's it from the team at The Global Insight for now. We want to hear what you think. How does this whirlwind presidency affect your day-to-day life? Do you believe that Trump's second term is serving the people or just those at the top? And what do you make of this bold, unrelenting disruption? As always, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel here at The Global Insight. And until next time, stay tuned.
After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America's promise, and we will rebuild the nation that we love, and we love it so much. So to every parent who dreams for their child, and every child who dreams for their future. I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We're going to win like never before.